Welcome to Actual Spinster. My name is Anna Marie, and today I wanted to talk about some films that I watched in 2024. I will tell you like my favourite films of 2024. I think I also just want to kind of chat a little bit about like some of the various films that I watched. I did watch 61 films overall in 2024, I think, which I think is like a solid number. Like I guess I kind of would want to be watching like one film a week or something, so 61 is fine, is great. And I did try last year to watch things that were like more current and had been recently released, so you know, stuff from 2024 and 2023, which was like partially because I was doing like a project where I couldn't, like where I was trying to read less from stuff that was published in the 2000s and onwards. I felt like if I watched recent films, then maybe I would like, it would be nice for me to feel like I could still stay kind of like a bit current with some of the things that people were talking about, like in the zeitgeist or whatever. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. It wasn't like an actual goal where I was like, I want to watch this amount of, films, but I was just like trying to kind of prioritize films from 2024 and 2023 generally. I'm not sure how many I did end up watching, but I do feel like I watched like a fairly solid chunk of recent stuff. Obviously it's like a little bit different with like films because when they're released you like go to a cinema sometimes to watch them and stuff, so the kind of focus on recent released films is like part of the experience of film watching. Although I didn't really go to the cinema very much last year, and I think I would like to try and do that a bit more this year if I have the money and like also can feel like okay about masking and COVID and stuff like that. I don't know, we'll see. But it is nice to see films in cinemas, so I will leave my Letterboxd account and stuff like in the description box if you'd like to follow me there, so you can see, in real time all the films I'm watching and how extremely cool I am. Like definitely, would love to hear about your favourite films of 2024 too. This is obviously like a belated edition. But basically I did like film this video where I talked about like other films that also were part of my film watching in 2024, but I decided instead I'm just going to leave a list in the description box of films that are like honourable mentions and or impacted me even if I didn't give them 5 stars or consider them like favourites, and then also a like list of like worst films of 2024 in the description box too, so if you do want to like take a look at that you can check it out there. But yeah, I'm just going to talk about my favourite films of 2024 now. Okay, so I have 6 of them, and we'll just go in the order that I watched them. So the first film that I gave 5 stars in 2024 was Mädchen in Uniform, which is a film from 1931 and is this like really lovely film. I mean, it's quite an intense film emotionally, but like considering the subject matter, it made me feel not terrible. But basically it's set in a girls' school in Germany. I'm not sure when it's set. I don't think it's set in the 30s. But yeah, it's about this girl in this girls' school. It's a boarding school, who is like a new girl, and she develops this like romantic and like very intense attraction and like relationship too, kind of, with a teacher there. And there were some really sweet moments, and like I really enjoyed how it played with like physicality. There's definitely a kind of like dyke camp energy to it, and to certain scenes especially too. Yeah, it was great. I enjoyed it a lot. I did watch this the longest ago, so it's not as like strong in my memory, but I definitely recommend it, especially if you are looking for like older things that deal with queer people and queer relationships, that aren't just stolidly bad. The film is not without it's not an unfraught scenario, or it's not like there's no difficulty. It's not like a utopia or anything like that, but just like, yeah, it was nice to see. So a thing about me is that I really love multilingual films. I just love them so much. And this was a multilingual film, but I think it's also because generally with multilingual films they tend to be like really cool. Like so that helps me like them a lot, but also they do tend to be quite political, or at least in my experience so far, of multilingual films. So this film is Unrest, or Unruhe, I think is its original language title, which I think is originally Swiss German, but I could be incorrect. Basically, this is set in the 1870s, I think. Could be 1880s, but around then, and it's set in Switzerland, basically, and it focuses on a group of watchmakers, and the kind of like local leftist, anarchist, communist organising around those workers that's going on. Kropotkin makes an appearance. It's like got some really beautiful shots. I loved it so much, and there's like a way that it takes seriously like living your political values and coming to understand your position within a system and then refusing to be part of it or to say that it's real. That's like just great. And yeah, so I think there's like Russian in it, there's definitely some German in it and some French, and I just loved it so much. I would definitely recommend it. I'm pretty sure the final shot made me cry, so the next film I guess is also multilingual. It's Monkey Man. I mean, I suppose it's more like bilingual. I think there's just Hindi and English in it, but yeah, it's Monkey Man, directed by Dev Patel, which also stars Dev Patel. I did really love this film a lot. I'm pretty sure I talked about it on my channel. And I went to see this in the cinema, which also I think was like really nice as an experience. Normally I'm like not very interested in like action films or like action sequences, but I really enjoyed this film, and that definitely surprised me. It's about Kid, and it's kind of like a revenge or like vengeance thriller action film. I really liked as well what it was saying, like from a political perspective, of course. Basically any film that I have to love has to have some kind of political element, I guess. I mean, also I think all films really are political because pretty much everything is political, but I think things that are self-consciously taking on social critique or class criticism or whatever can be really powerful, especially if they're done well, and I think yeah, this was really well done. My Letterboxd review is something like, he had to become a trans feminist before he could get revenge, which I stand by. Like, it's obviously a criticism of like modern day India and the BJP and the use of Hinduism to benefit an elite few, and like, you know, using that as like a way to have, you know, nationalism and fascism. Like, it's not super in-depth about that because it is focused on the main character, but that's very clear and part of the sort of story that the film is telling. Like, it's, yeah, so definitely would recommend. Gosh, I really watched some really good films this year, huh? I feel like I'm also getting more into watching documentaries, although I still would say that they're like a minority in my watching history, but that's partially just because if it's a documentary I obviously want to be able to like really pay attention to it, and then sometimes I feel like I just can't do that, like I don't have that range of attention in me at that moment, so then I watch them less. And also they obviously wouldn't necessarily be like comforting, which occasionally I will watch a film because I want to watch something like escapist or beautiful or yeah, comforting. Anyway, this film, I guess this was kind of comforting in a way, but this is a documentary called Your Fat Friend, and it focuses on Aubrey Gordon, who if you're like into podcasts, especially ones that are like fat phobia conscious and like health related and also just like nice, then you might know her from Maintenance Phase, which is a podcast she runs with, I forgot his name, Michael something. Oh no, I'm sorry, I do like him a lot too. So yeah, it follows Aubrey Gordon, and basically before Maintenance Phase and before she like was not anonymous on the internet, she was anonymous as Your Fat Friend, and she would write articles, and also I know she has like had a Twitter account I think too, and like would talk about being like a fat person in public and like in, you know, traveling and like the difficulties and like all of this stuff. So this film does follow her before she sort of came out as the face behind Your Fat Friend, but as well as like going forward. And yeah, it's a really lovely film. It also interviews like her family, and they talk about you know, especially with her mum, there's some really, I might cry just thinking about it, there's some really like sort of amazing kind of moments of understanding, recognition, like processing that goes on in terms of like how her mum thinks about how she treated Aubrey as a child, and then like how that might have impacted, and because Aubrey has the experience of having been in like a lot of kind of like Weight Watching or like those kinds of things from quite a young person. I can't remember how young, but like I think as a teenager, and you know, obviously I think quite a universal experience of like having a mother-daughter relationship tends to be that you hear your mother talk about her body in a way that makes you feel some sort of way about your own body, or makes you come to an awareness about like what a body should be, or like what is good or bad, or you know, and generally it does tend to be that being fat is bad. I'm sure people have different experiences within that, but I do think quite a sort of universal maternal heritage can be disordered behaviour around food, and difficulty in terms of fat phobia, and also just like tragic negativity about bodies, especially like women's bodies, but also just bodies in general. Yeah, no, it's really great, would definitely recommend. I think it's like an indie film, so like I will leave a link to where I watched it, because I did pay to watch it, because there was some kind of like thing that like it was like half off or something in June and like in Pride month or something, I can't remember, but yeah, I'll try to leave a link where you might be able to find it, because I do think it's a really lovely film. And I think if, depending on the relationship you have with your family, like if you are fat, or if you just like are disabled or something, and you want your family or someone you love to consider like how they talk about their body in front of you in a more kind of sophisticated or like sensitive and compassionate way, showing this film to them might be nice, because it has people in all sorts of different stages of kind of like sort of acceptance or like fat phobic approaches or whatever, but it's also like so sweet and compassionate about like all of them, without losing sight of the fact that like, you know, it's Aubrey and it's like fat people, especially like larger fat people, who deal with the brunt of like fat phobic difficulties in society and life. Okay, another documentary. This one was fucking crazy. This is The Babushkas of Chernobyl, which is a film that, because of Tumblr, has been on my like reference to watch for a while. Basically, it's about this community of older women, like quite old, I would say 80s plus generally, who were around Chernobyl when it exploded, and like when the radioactive explosion happened, and so they were evacuated to other places, but a lot of them have then returned, or not a lot like in comparison with the community, but all of these women who are now back in Chernobyl or like around Chernobyl have returned from those evacuations, which was like I guess in the 80s, but they just hated being evacuated so much that they've come back. Yeah, it's like kind of amazing. I mean, it like sort of shows their community and like how they live. It also shows them like interacting with like medical professionals, or and also sometimes just scientists in general. Like they sort of help to, you know, like for example, they have like hens, and they'll like give the eggs that the hens produce to some scientists who are like clearly like state funded, or like state part of the state apparatus of like checking on Chernobyl, so that they can like check the like radioactive counts or whatever. And it's sort of crazy. And you know, there's this one who's like this like quite batty old woman who like I just love. She's crazy, she's a witch, I love her. And she like goes around in the forest, and you know, it's like eating mushrooms, which like you really shouldn't do, but then she goes and gets like a checkup with the like healthcare professionals, and they check her like radiation levels, and the like person who's facilitating it, he's like oh yeah, but you don't like eat stuff from the forest, do you, or like drink the water there? And she's like, yeah, no, I do. But they just sort of all feel as a community that their like standard of life and living was worse when they were like not where they wanted to live, or like not where they were from, and so that's partially why they've come back. And obviously they are also all older, so I guess as they pass away, you know, you can kind of argue that they're just dying of old age as opposed to like radiation poisoning. Yeah, and I mean, it's clearly sort of a risk they're willing to take. And it was a very fascinating film, and like sort of beautiful too, and like women are so resilient in so many ways, and I did really enjoy that. And like there don't seem to be many men there at all. I think either they all passed away, or like not many came back with them either, so that's also quite interesting. Okay, and then the final fave film of 2024, which I think is my overall 100% favourite because I just like loved it so much, was Lisa Frankenstein. Yeah, it's like this like pastiche teen slasher film that's set in the 1980s, about like a zombie slash like, you know, this dead man who comes back from the dead. Is obviously like related to Frankenstein because it's called Lisa Frankenstein, and it's like a romance, and I just loved it so much. Like, it's just so good. I've watched it like so many times at this point, which is also one of the reasons why I don't log rewatches, because I just rewatch things all the time, especially if I love them, so then it just feels like silly, like, oh, Anna Marie logged Lisa Frankenstein for the 18th time. Crazy. Yeah, it's like so good. It's got like Cole Sprouse in it as the zombie, and like I honestly love him in that role. I love him. I mean, I love him in Riverdale as Jughead and stuff, and it's not like the same really, but at the same time, like, I feel like the genre of character is kind of quite similar, but also the creature that Cole plays in Lisa Frankenstein doesn't speak, which I deeply enjoyed as well. Yeah, I just like ship them both together, but I also ship myself with the creature for sure. And it also like really gave me this kind of like goth awakening that made me be like, I would like to be and dress more goth. So that's definitely something I'm going to continue to kind of explore. So yeah, it had a major impact on me. And I just like also kind of constantly been trying to find a film that's like just like Lisa Frankenstein, or like as good as it, and I've been struggling a lot with that. I have kind of like let it go a bit more since I watched it for the first time in September, I think. But you know, definitely let me know your recommendations for stuff like it, because I just loved it. Yeah, like I can't tell you why or like how, like I just enjoyed it so deeply. And I love the soundtrack too. One of the songs that they play at this like very hilarious, pivotal and violent moment was one of the top songs on my Spotify Wrapped, because I just like listen to it all the time now. And I definitely like really got back into like the 1980s, which I've always kind of thought was kind of cool and stuff, but like, you know, haven't properly dedicated myself to, whereas now I like listen to the Smiths a lot more regularly. And I've always like loved The Cure, but I haven't like explored loads of their work, but I've been doing a bit more. I've been getting more into it, you know. I've also had a lot of very positive feedback when I've talked to people about wanting to be more goth, so that's very nice, and I appreciate that a lot. Talking about Lisa Frankenstein has made me just want to rewatch it, so I might do that today. I hope that you're having a good day when you're watching this. Definitely let me know your favourite films of 2024, or if you have any recommendations for me based off of the films that I've mentioned. Yeah, there's a few films that I meant to get to last year that I didn't, that I did just get to this year, so that's nice, I guess, but I'll talk about those maybe next year. Or no, this year, but at the end of this year. Whatever, you get it. We're in a weird time. Cool. Bye!